I'm Bill Palm, interviewing Earl Rice from Mercersburg, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And we're talking about serving in the Air Force, and you're going to tell me a little bit about how you got there. First of all, you were from Mercersburg. What did your dad do? What sort of background did you have?
Well, as far as business is concerned, I was raising goldfish.
Oh, mercy.
Right. We had a farm of raised a couple million or 67 million a year, and sold all over the country to chain stores at that time, the 5 and 10s and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Mercy. Okay.
So that's my background as a child,
Mm-hmm.
working there in my father's business.
And then World War II came along, and
Right.
you were out of high school.
I was out of school. I got out of high school in 40, and well, I don't know. Anyhow, I went up to the academy there in Mercersburg for a year after that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I went from that to the Air Force.
Okay, and you weren't drafted, but you knew you were going to be drafted.
Right.
Okay.
I wasn't drafted.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad didn't want. He talked me out of trying to enlist in the first time,
Mm-hmm.
and but he couldn't control me on the second one.
Yeah. And, well, what did you want to do, and what happened?
Well, when I went getting back to the classification, my the word was around that they were getting too many pilots, and they were washing them out pretty fast. So I thought, well, I'd just soon have the wings for anything, so I'll ask to be a bombardier. And so you had to go in to the psychiatrist. Took 3 of us in at a time, and he says, "So you want to be a bombardier?" "Yes, I do, sir." And so he was sitting there smoking, had a wooden match, handed it to me, and he says, "See that Coke bottle over there? I want you to go over and drop this in that bottle." So I tried, and it fluttered down. Of course, I couldn't even hit the bottle. And I looked at him. I says, "No fins on the damn thing. Get out of here." So they let me. I was classified. I could have had any 3 of them: a navigator, bombardier, or pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And but I stayed with bombardier, and came through that. Graduated in December of 42.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where did you go for training?
Finally I got in on 29. I went down to Pyote, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
where I met my crew. And we did some training together around there then. Mm-hmm. And from there I went to San Francisco and overseas.
How did you get overseas? Did you?
Well, of course, the war had been going on for some time, and some men had got their 30, 35 missions in and were coming home. Mm-hmm. So their planes were still there. So we didn't fly one over, because we were going to be replacements. And Air Force had their own UPS, so to speak, and flying freight and stuff over. And so they took us. We went over on those flights to land in Hawaii. One in the evening, put us in bed, put us in the bunks. Mm-hmm. About midnight, came in. Everybody up. were going on.
Yeah.
So I wound up in Guam, where I was there for a day or so before they showed us, put us with an outfit.
Okay. So you went over on a cargo plane?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. That was probably not a whole lot of fun?
No, they had those seats along the aisle, or, you know, and freight in the middle. And there was a nice big box on the freight there, and I crawled up on that and went to sleep.
Okay. Well, so that wasn't that bad.
No, but you do what you got to do.
But no windows.
Oh, I think there was a few portholes, yeah.
Okay, a couple anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but...
But you didn't worry about a window seat because you just crawled up and went to sleep.
It was just a bar along that wall, like this was the center of the plane, and the seats ran like those seats. They weren't seats, they were just, well, I guess you could call them seats, but they weren't padded, believe me.
Yeah.
So we were assigned then to a squadron, and had a little incident there when we assigned to this Quonset hut. Went in, said, throw your gear on the bunk you want. So, and Captain Swafford, the pilot, said, I'm going up to check in, and he put his stuff on right next to a window, or to the doorway, the bunk, and put his gear. Well, the co-pilot had enough nerve to take his stuff and throw it on the next one, and he took that. Well, everybody stood back. So when the pilot came back in, he didn't make a show in the building. He took him outside and talked to him. Well, to make a long story short, we lost that co-pilot. And the colonel gave us a good talking to, because he said, you're very fortunate you have a captain for a pilot, because he said, we'll keep you together and give you another co-pilot. But normally we'd break you all up and put you any place. So we kept the majority of us together, and got a young man from Virginia, nice, could fly.
So you were a second lieutenant?
Yeah. And we didn't particularly care for the co-pilot anyhow. He wasn't too good a pilot. We didn't think. I remember Swafford would say, Delisle's going to land this time, and everybody would head for someplace to we thought they were protected. I don't know why he shouldn't have mentioned that, of course, to me. I wouldn't think to, over the telephone,
Right.
Tell the crew who was going to land it. But no, I think, of course, most of the cities had been very well bombed out. By the time I got there, they had us dropping mines in the inner waterways of Japan.
What were you flying? What craft?
What strength?
What sort of bomber were you flying?
What's what?
What bomber were you flying?
29s, B-29.
B-29s, okay. And the crew was how large?
11.
11 of you. And that included the pilot, co-pilot, you.
Pilot, co-pilot, the engineer, who happened to be a pilot, and then the bombardier, the navigator, the radar operator, and 4 gunners.
And each of those gunners had a machine gun. What was it?
Yeah, Well, this was becoming, normally you see pictures of the 17s over Europe and so
Yeah.
forth, and the guys there holding a gun, shooting out a window and so forth. None of that on a 29. You had at the window, you had a fixture there on that you could move up and down, look through and look up and down, and there was a circle on it with a dot in the middle, and that you could expand or contract. And if you could keep that object you were going to shoot at within that circle and frame him well, you had a computer that pulled the trigger. You pulled the trigger. You pushed a button and the guns went off. You didn't you didn't handle the guns at all. So that was pretty. And the computer supposedly figured the distance and
speed and
yeah. For World War II, that was pretty good.
yeah.
Well, the 29 was the first bomber that was. We were pressurized too. We weren't. We didn't have to wear masks or anything in the plane. Of course, we were in the air. We were on 10-hour flights up and back.
And you were flying off of which island?
Tinian. That's the one that the bomb left off of. And that's another thing that'll always stick out in my mind is I got to fly over Hiroshima about 3 days after they dropped it. And I looked at he took us in pretty low, and I thought, those Japanese have cleaned this place up already. Because I was used to looking at cities with nothing but rubble, and there's a thing that almost looked like this floor. And here, I didn't realize what that bomb could do. My father-in-law had all businesses, but he had one little business that I loved, was a propane business. And I saw this propane business in Chambersburg and Shippensburg and around different places with this franchised Happy Cooking signature, and they were doing well with thousands of customers or better, and he just sat there with just a few. And he was happy as a jailer to get me, and so I went over there, we ran that thing up to about 1,500 customers, and.
So you were manager or?
Well, of the
cook
of the gas company, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he left me do my thing with buying trucks and tanks and got a bulk plant set in and so forth. And so I was going down the road one day on an out-of-haul gas call out one Sunday, and I got into Shippensburg, and this car behind me kept blowing its horn, like it wanted me to stop. So finally, I saw it was a woman in it. And so finally I stopped, and she came around. Here it was the wife of the fellow that owned that gas company. And she says, "Hey, we just sold our company. You sold that nice..." "What?" She says, "Yes, we sold. We wanted it out. We sold it." He says, "This company's interested in buying companies. We'll send them around if you want them." Well, I knew I couldn't say sell, but I could bring them around. So I said, "Yeah, send them around." So anyhow, we went. Long story, wound up getting a nice price for it and sold it. What encouraged me was about that time, the fish business was really doing good, and my father had died, and without a will, and I owned half the business. And so, and I was getting more money than I knew what to do with. So I figured I didn't have, there I was, 60-some years old. Why not? So I sold, and Matthews was happy to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had sons that, but none of them were interested in the business. So it worked out. When I look back on my life, there were a hell of a lot of decisions I made that I had an angel sitting on my shoulder. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but you still make your own luck.
Well, you make your own luck. Now you know what I'm doing?
What?
Feeding cattle in Kansas.
How are you doing that from here?
Well, I went out there. I was always interested in cattle. In fact, that's why my father and I fell out. One of the reasons I got into a little into the cattle business. I wanted to build up a herd,
Mm-hmm.
and so I saw this ad in the paper in the Wall Street Journal. That says, "Feed cattle and defer income." So I got to look into this, and what it was, you bought the feed in one year, but you fed it
Mm-hmm.
in the next. No, you bought it this year, so it was an expense,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't feed it till the next year.
Mm-hmm.
And these boys in Amarillo were pushing this thing for people like me, and so I went out to see the cattle, which I didn't have to do, and so I did that for 2 years, and finally this young man at the manager of this feed yard says, "Why are you messing with these people, paying them $25 a head for them, and you're using your money?" He says, "We've got cattle to sell all the time." He says, "You don't have to deal through them." So I started buying cattle,
Mm-hmm.
pens of cattle from them that they'd just brought in off the prairies or the.
Okay.
It was Cargill businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They had about 7 feed yards out there in the West, and so I got to know several of the managers.
Mm-hmm.
They were all. And so this one guy sold me a herd, sold me a pen of 300 head,
Mm-hmm.
which was the most I ever bought at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and 300 heifers, and I understood a lot of them gave him hell for that, for a greenhorn like me letting me buy that many head.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I made off of those? $30,000 off of that one pen.
Outstanding. Well,
$300 a head I got.
mercy. Earl, it's been a tremendous opportunity to talk to you.
But you get me going on cattle.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here a while.
Okay. Okay. This has been an outstanding opportunity. It's my pleasure talking to you, sir.
Good. Well, don't put it all in the paper.
Okay.